Alright, let's play Persona 3. What? Oh, not that one. Not that one. No, not that one either. No, unfortunately. I would love to play as a girl, but no, not that one. Is that the movie? How'd you even get that here? Anyway, hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the first video I've recorded in a good long while. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, today we're going to talk about Persona 3 Reload, which is a remake of Persona 3 from 2006. That version specifically. We will circle back to that point. But just to give a little info about my history with the series. I'm, I don't know, relatively new fan to the Persona series. Like, I got in with Persona 5, like pretty much everybody else did. I've played Persona 5, I've played Persona 5 Royal, which is just a re-release of 5 but with more stuff. I've played Shin Megami Tensei 5, and those are the only 3 that I've beat. I've beaten a couple of the spin-offs, and I own 4 Golden, so I'll get around to it eventually, I guess. You'll have to stick around to find out. But yeah, so not a ton of experience with the series, but I do love my turn-based RPGs, and that's exactly what this is. It's a nice turn-based RPG with some life sim elements. If you've played Persona 5, you get the general deal. So let's get right into talking about that. First of all, the aesthetic. Much like Persona 5, sorry, there's going to be a lot of comparisons to Persona 5 just because a ton of people played Persona 5, myself included, so it's a good touch point, but it looks fantastic. I think the visuals look so nice. It is, unfortunately, kind of getting ahead of myself here, it's one of the few areas where the game is just objectively, factually the best version of Persona 3, which again, we will get to later. But yeah, game looks fantastic. I think all of the character art looks great, the models look really solid. I think the UI is phenomenal. I'm so obsessed that Atlus kind of decided that UI looking really nice was going to be like their main shtick. Because they've really just like popped off with like every game they've released since Persona 5. So like, that's awesome. Like, look at this. It's fantastic. Look at that. Oh my god. And yeah, now we can talk about some like gameplay stuff. So, as I mentioned, it is a turn-based RPG. It's a really good turn-based RPG, but it is just a turn-based RPG, so if that's not your type of game, so be it. But I think it's a really solid turn-based RPG with some life sim elements, and just going to talk about those 2 separate aspects real quick. One, the turn-based RPG side of things, really good, really solid. I have so little complaints with it, and it's mostly just like some little features from like Shin Megami Tensei 5 that I wish were here. But for the most part, it's just really solid, it's really good. It's not very difficult, but like I'm kind of okay with that personally, because I'm not like great at these games. I'll be the first to admit. But so you use your personas. All of your party members have their own unique persona, and the player character can receive and fuse and create a whole bunch of different personas to use for different elemental coverages and attacks and all that jazz. Just to put it incredibly simply. And then there's a life sim aspect, which is where during the day and also during the nights when you choose not to go to the dungeon, but we'll talk about that when we talk about the story, you get to kind of go around a couple of small-ish areas from the city, and you can go to stores, buy stuff, you can do activities to improve your social stats, and you can use those improved social stats to do social links, or what they're called confidants in Persona 5, where you can talk to a character and they have a little story to go through, and then once you finish it, you get a reward. And that's one area that I personally didn't like how it was handled, but I understand that that's how it was in the original games, is that the only real reward you get for social links is the final one, whereas in something like Persona 5, you get rewards for like every like few random levels, so it just felt slightly more tedious because of that, but I will say they're all fully voiced, which is fantastic. It makes it a lot easier to sit through some of them. Along with that, this game, with the life sim aspects, it has a very tight schedule to it. Like, at least in my opinion, it felt very tight to be able to do everything, and by that I mean I wasn't able to do everything. I did not finish all of the social links. And yeah, I just personally didn't have that issue in the previous Persona games I've played. And it's also one thing that's just kind of really annoying, where a ton of the social links, like the vast majority of the social links, are at the school, and there's so many days where you're not allowed to go to the school. So like there's so many days where you just like can't do, or you don't have the option to do like a majority of the social links, including quite literally all of the romance option ones. So it's just a little annoying in my opinion, personally. But that's pretty much it for complaints in the gameplay standpoint. I think it's all really good. I think the additions they had to combat was really nice. It makes it feel very good. I liked the theurgies, which are pretty much just like ultimate attacks. I like them a lot better than the combo moves from Persona 5 Royal. They're still like very flashy and all that jazz, but you have a lot more control of when they're activated, unlike in that, because each party member has their own requirement that like bumps up their theurgy gauge, and then once it's filled, you can do your thing. That's all nice. I like that addition. And for the most part, everything else pretty much just plays like how Persona 5 played, like, to be totally honest. So, not complaining. I think it plays and feels very nice to play. I know they've like added and like tweaked and rebalanced some personas and some new like spells and stuff, but I personally don't have experience with the original games, so I can't go too much into detail on how that changes things up. And one more little technical thing that I know most people aren't going to care about, but as someone who owns a PS5 and a PS4, I really appreciate, is that this game has a online save slot where you can load and save from both the PS5 and the PS4 version, which is just really nice, especially as someone who plays games on her PS5 and then records the footage for these videos off of her PS4 just because of how my stuff is set up. So it's really nice to be able to manually be playing this stuff on the PS4 instead of having to like do the online cloud play to my PS5. It's great. It's a really nice little feature, even though like most people probably don't really care at all about it. So we can just jump right into the voice acting stuff, because the voice acting in this game is phenomenal. It's really good. Like, just really good. I played the English dub, because I just play English dubs when there's no option for that. Sorry. But the whole voice cast, aside from one, is recasted from the original games, which I actually don't know what people's general thoughts are on the new cast. I really like them. I think they do a fantastic job, but I haven't played the originals, so I can't exactly compare them personally, from personal experience. But just to run through the highlights for myself at least, there was Alex Lee, who voices the player character and also Ryoji. There's Zeno Robinson, who voices Junpei. He did such a good job. Oh my god. Heather Gonzalez as Yukari, again, fantastic. Allegra Clark as Mitsuru, so good. Like, voice actors really just like nail the character's whole vibes. And then Don M. Bennett as Aegis. Great. fantastic. I love it. And then the one voice character that reprised their role is Tara Platt, who voices Elizabeth. And, like, she does a good job. Like, I get why they just brought her back. But even though the main party and pretty much everybody else is recasted, they did this very fun thing where all of the VAs from the original game had little cameo roles in this, and I just think that was really cute. I think it was really fun. I liked it. I liked being able to, like, you know, spot, like, Yuri Lowenthal voicing a character and be like, oh my god. Oh my god, it's the protagonist from the original game. That was just a fun little thing. And then, for music, you know me, I love me some banging tunes, and this game is filled with them. Oh my god. It's such a good soundtrack. But I will say, most of the songs are remixes from the originals, which is not a bad thing. It's just that there isn't a ton of wholly new original stuff. But there's 2 wholly new original songs that I really loved. There's Full Moon, Full Life, which is the opening intro song, and It's Going Down Tonight, which is the, like, advantage state battle theme, if that makes sense, if you, like, sneak up on an enemy. But even then, all of the remixes are so good. Just to run through a couple of my favorites, we got Mass Destruction, Burn My Dread, Changing Seasons, Burn My Dread again, the final battle version, Want to Be Close, Memories of the City and Memories of the School, which are pretty much the same song, but, like, slightly tweaked depending on where you are. You'll never guess where you are for those songs. Living with Determination, and then finally Memories of You. All fantastic songs. But now we can talk a little bit about the story stuff. I'm actually not going to get into spoilers this video, because I kind of just don't really want to. So I'm just going to kind of lay out the general vibe of the story. So you play as this guy, the protagonist. You can name him whatever you want. I'm just going to call him the player character, the protagonist. But he transfers to this new school, Gekkoukan, and he... very quickly, it is revealed that he has some weird power that not everybody has, and we learn that there's this thing called the Dark Hour that happens between midnight and 12:01 in the morning every night, and it's an hour, and normal people aren't aware of the time happening or passing, but some people are present. They have, like, an affinity to it. And these people, at least typically, I don't know if they all do, but pretty much all of the ones that we see are able to summon a persona, which is kind of a reflection of the true self, and they can use it to cast spells and shit, of course. And yeah, so we get moved into this dorm that's for students who have the, like, potential to be in the Dark Hour and have personas, and we're met up with the other students who are there. And why does she have a gun? Hey guys, hey, why does she have a gun? And then we are attacked by shadows, these gooey guys, but they come in all sorts of shapes and forms and stuff. And the player character is awakened to his persona, Orpheus, but don't worry, he'll be gone soon enough. You'll fuse him away real quick. But then he's recruited onto the team, especially once it's revealed that he can use multiple personas. They're like, oh, we need to get this guy on the team. Stat! So they got him on the team. And then the whole deal with the Dark Hour is that where the school currently is, Gekkoukan, every Dark Hour, this big-ass tower rises out of the ground called Tartarus, and you gotta climb it to fight shadows and stuff. And then later on in the story, it is revealed there is a particular reason why you want to reach the top of the building, and then you have to try and get to the top of Tartarus. And I think Tartarus is a really interesting, like, part of the gameplay loop, because essentially it's one giant 260-something floor dungeon, and that's it. There's no, like, other dungeons. So it sounds like it would be monotonous. It isn't that bad until, like, late game. In my opinion, late game, it got a little tedious. I kind of felt the whole game got a little tedious towards the late game. Both the regular daily life stuff and the Tartarus dungeon climbing stuff, which is kind of, like, my biggest gripe of the game itself. But the story, I think, is really solid. I like the themes. It's very centered around the themes of like death and all that jazz, which I think is a good and important theming to have. I love the characters. The party members are so great. They're very vibrant characters. I really loved seeing them like talk and interact and all that. That was great. And yeah, I think the pacing of the story / the structure of it is like the only area where it's kind of iffy, because it's like there are some times where like main characters straight up die, and then you will just be immediately sent into just your regular daily life stuff, which like I'm sure you could argue is like some sort of meta narrative on how we're forced to like move on from grieving so quickly or some shit, but it still feels a little goofy. But on the whole, I think it was all really good, and yeah, I just liked the story a lot. I will say, my biggest issue with the game isn't actually something wrong in the game, which is why I feel weird mentioning it, but I think it's relevant, is the fact that this remake is not the definitive version of Persona 3. Because for those of you who don't know, Persona 3 was released 3 times already in the form of Persona 3, Persona 3 FES, which was released a year later, and Persona 3 Portable, which was released, I think, 3 years later? And all of them have slightly, or FES and Portable both have like major gameplay and or story additions to Persona 3. And even there's some small like bits that are in Persona 3 that aren't in those other two, or aren't even in Reload, and it's like, it's just very frustrating, because half of the reason people really wanted a Persona 3 remake was to have an actual definitive version of the game, because to put it very simply, Persona 3 FES adds a whole like epilogue story segment called The Answer, which we're actually getting as DLC for this game, which kind of makes it even more frustrating that the whole game couldn't just be the definitive version, and instead this $70 remake has like a $30 DLC thing to get it to be inclusive of the FES content. But that's also just completely ignoring Portable. Persona 3 Portable just gets completely like left out for the most part. Like I think there's like a couple of like small quality of life things that were carried over. Well, those are mostly quality of life things that have been carried over in the series in the future. And the biggest thing Portable has is you can play as a girl, which as a girl I would have really liked to have the option of. And it's just really annoying that it's not. I will concede that the FemC route, as it's referred to, is pretty decently changed compared to pretty much any other game where you have a choice of gender, like Pokemon or something. Like, pretty much most lines of dialogue, or even like whole like character dynamics, are like straight up changed and all that. So like, there is like actual substantial changes brought on with it, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating that this $70 remake, they couldn't be like bothered to include it like at all. Even some of the like the aspects that aren't dependent on you playing as a girl, like being able to choose the gender of your Velvet Room attendant between Elizabeth and Theodore, just not an option at all, even though like that was just like an optional thing in Portable. Like it wasn't just specifically you had to play as a girl and you got the boy one. So it's just very frustrating. It's very annoying. But I find it hard to really like quote unquote deduct points. I don't rank things on numbers here, but like quote unquote deduct points for something that's not in the game versus something that they did wrong in the game, if that makes sense. But I just think it's important to mention. So yeah, hey everybody, welcome to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this very, very condensed look at my thoughts on Persona 3 Reload. I definitely do think you should check it out if you have the means to. I think it is a really good and fun game. I will say it is long as hell, but I think it's really good. I think it's a really solid game. I think the characters are great. I think the gameplay is great. I think there's only a few relatively nitpicky issues I have with the game itself. And again, the biggest complaint I have is a matter of content that was not included. So do with that what you will, make of that what you want, but ultimately I would say it was a good game. I enjoyed it, even if it is a little frustrating. But that is all I have to say for this episode. Thankfully, I actually don't really have any like updates to include for this little end bit here, so I can kind of just end it here. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you like, comment, and subscribe. Always be plugging. And yeah, I hope you liked this shorter form factor, this more simplified form factor. We'll obviously be tweaking it and working on it in the future, but I really just wanted to try this out first, and we'll see how things go from there. But yeah, thanks for watching. I will see you next time with probably Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Probably. I haven't touched it in a hot second actually, but probably. I'll see you then. Bye!